Hey everyone. As promised, I'm going to start reading through some of Chris's work and talking about it. The first thing I'd like to read through is the Metaformal System, Completing the Theory of Language. I absolutely love this paper. I've read it maybe more than any of his other papers. I just think it's so well explicated and explicates so many things. Kind of in a uniquely detailed way, certain topics that I find particularly interesting, like just language in general. All of Chris's papers are so well explicated, though, honestly. It's really just that I'm particularly fond of this subject matter. I'd like to make a little disclaimer. I'm not claiming to be an expert on the CTMU or any of the subject matter I discuss. I'm just somebody who wants to share their intellectual journey with you all, and I'm curious what feedback y'all might have and your own perspectives from your own intellectual journeys. Looking forward to seeing some of that as y'all feel led to share. Alright, so without further ado, I'll get started. I guess I want to say that this series is going to be... I really think it would be cool to do it daily, but I'm just going to do it as often as possible because my schedule is going to be kind of variable as my work schedule changes in the near future. But I'll just be doing it as often as I can. So without further ado, the Metaformal System, Completing the Theory of Language by Christopher Michael Langan. This was published in the journal Cosmos and History. I'll just read the abstract, go through that today. The abstract. The standard theory of languages has two levels. One centering on the study, teaching, and application of natural languages, and the other on formal languages and formal systems as applied throughout the mathematical and empirical sciences, in analytic philosophy, and for computer programming, software engineering, artificial intelligence, and related technologies. On both of these levels, standard language theory is dualistic, defining languages in isolation from their domains of discourse and treating attributes in isolation from their objective instances, while omitting important properties and functions ordinarily provided or executed by language users, automata, or physical systems on which they appear to supervene. This decoupling of languages from their universes and from necessary linguistic functions such as display, processing, interpretation, and communication has profound epistemological bearing, limiting scientific knowledge by precluding the linguistic formulation of any verifiable comprehensive description of reality. This paper proposes that in addition to the two existing levels of standard language theory involving natural and formal languages and systems, the theory of language be recognized to possess a third metaformal level on which languages and their universes are wrapped in a uniquely structured, totally self-contained metalanguage, the metaformal system, which restores missing linguistic functionality while using a supertautological intelligibility criterion to generically couple languages with their universes on a fundamental level of shared structure and dynamics, thereby restoring the potential for a verifiable, comprehensive, and fully connected understanding of the reality we share. So starting out, he breaks down the standard theory of languages into two levels: natural languages and formal languages. Natural languages being the languages we speak, such as English, Spanish, Chinese, Japanese, everything else. And formal languages and formal systems, which he's going to rigorously define later. I won't rigorously define them in this video. I'll just say that, as he says, they're used in mathematics and science, and logic, analytic philosophy. They're extremely strict, whereas natural language can be fluid and can evolve over time. Formal languages are well defined and do not evolve in that same way. You actually have to change the definition of the formal language in order for it to evolve in that way. You have to explicitly change it in that way. And he also breaks down, he talks about that an issue with both of these levels is basically Cartesian dualism. Here, let me zoom in the screen a little bit. So you have the issue of dualism. Both of these levels just address the language side, or in Cartesian dualistic terms, the mind, as opposed to the body or the universe, or domain of discourse, where a domain of discourse is that which the universe is that which the language talks about, the content of the language. For example, if you're talking about, in natural linguistic terms, a sentence of natural language has the domain of discourse of just that which is being discussed, which is held in the imagination of the language user, and is related to certain perceptions that the language user has, either internal imaginative perceptions or things that they have actually seen. There is always some perceptual, in quotes, content to the natural language sentence. And in formal languages, an example of a domain of discourse would be, an example that I like to think about is in the theory of arithmetic. You have sentences in a formal language of say, like piano arithmetic, or if you just want to think about just arithmetic generally without getting too detailed about it. You have these statements that have to be interpreted in some domain of discourse, such as the natural numbers or the integers. And these are the elements that conform to the rules of the formal language, where the theory of arithmetic is a formal language. And so both the studies of natural languages and formal languages, they don't address or they hold the language itself apart from the domain of discourse and kind of treat it separately, as Cartesian dualism would prescribe. He says, on both of these levels, standard language theory is dualistic, defining languages in isolation from their domains of discourse. So they're defined in isolation, and the attributes of those languages are in isolation from their objective instances, such as in natural language, the attribute read, and all of the things that are read, for example. Or in a formal language, such as the theory of arithmetic, you would have like, what would be an example? I guess like stating a law, like the associative or the commutative law of addition, for example, and then all of the instances using numbers that satisfy the commutative property, for example. This decoupling, I skipped ahead a little bit. Defining languages in isolation from their domains of discourse and treating attributes in isolation from their objective instances, while omitting important properties and functions ordinarily provided or executed by language users, automata, or physical systems on which they appear to supervene. So both of these disciplines don't even talk about the language user explicitly. It's just sort of implicit that you are the language user, or some abstract automata is processing the formal language, or like say the language of the laws of physics, the language user would be like a physical system or the universe itself on which they appear to supervene. That's a cool word. Let's look that up real quick. To occur later than a specified or implied event or action, typically in such a way as to change the situation in philosophy, be entailed by or consequent on the existence or establishment of another. So what would that mean here? Omitting important properties and functions ordinarily provided or executed by the language users, automata, or physical systems on which they appear to supervene. They just appear to be entailed by the physical systems, like they're kind of emergent from them. They're not intimately causally tied to them, as the CTMU will go on to talk about later in the paper and in other of Chris's papers. Sort of language is just like an emergent phenomena from these things like language users or automata or the physical universe itself. That's my interpretation of that usage. So this decoupling of languages from their universes and from necessary linguistic functions, such as display, processing, interpretation, and communication, has profound epistemological bearing, limiting scientific knowledge by precluding the linguistic formulation of any verifiable, comprehensive description of reality. So we have these necessary linguistic functions that are also omitted from the standard theory of natural and formal languages, such as display. So like what is display? Well, that's like, if you just want to take, I guess, a very, very general example of your perceptual reality, all of your perceptions, the display is that which holds or carries or instantiates those perceptions. Like if you want to think about your perceptual reality as a big computer screen, a display in the realm of IT would be like the computer monitor that you have. Well, whatever the perceptual universe is, it's like a giant monitor that is literally displaying each of your perceptions. What is that mechanism that can do that? That is what is omitted from these studies. So the display, the processing would be what is able to change one perceptual instance into another, like the like the rules that determine that process, so to speak. Interpretation, so like how do you get from perceptual content to mental content? What is that mapping that creates meaning? And communication, how are you able to then take that meaning that you get from interpretation and wrap it in some linguistic and some language, and send an instance of that language to somebody else that they can then interpret and derive the same or at least similar enough meaning in their own minds to be able to effectively communicate and have a faithful, preservation of meaning between two language users. All of these aspects of language and how we experience it are all omitted by how language is studied today, both in its natural and formal contexts, and that prevents the linguistic formulation of any verifiable, comprehensive description of reality. And it also limits scientific knowledge, because science, the scientific paradigm in general, is pretty limited in the type of knowledge that it can produce. I won't go too much into that in this video because it's its own topic. So I'll just continue. This paper proposes that in addition to the two existing levels of standard language theory involving natural and formal languages and systems, the theory of language be recognized to possess a third, quote, metaformal level, on which languages and their universes are wrapped in a uniquely structured, totally self-contained meta-language, the metaformal system, which restores missing linguistic functionality, such as the four terms that we discussed earlier, while using a super-tautological intelligibility criterion to generically couple languages with their universes on a fundamental level of shared structure and dynamics, thereby restoring the potential for a verifiable, comprehensive, and fully connected understanding of the reality we share. So what is the thrust of this third level that he discusses that contains the metaformal system? Well, it wraps the two dual sides of Cartesian dualism in a uniquely structured, totally self-contained meta-language, as he says, which is such a beautiful image to me. It's like these two things that were just always held apart under the Cartesian dualistic paradigm, and never the twain shall meet, are just immersed in this fundamental background that supports them both and relates them intimately together, and fundamentally and ultimately shows that they are two dual aspects of an underlying self-duality unity, where self-duality is where one underlying thing has two dual aspects that are dually equivalent to each other. Like I said, I'm not an expert on this stuff, so if y'all have more to add or want to comment, feel free. I'm just sharing my thoughts as they occur. So yeah, that's what this paper is going to be about. It's going to be about exploring how both natural language and formal language can be immersed in this third level this metaformal level of language that relates them to their universes and domains of discourse in every single context, and ultimately unites those contexts in a fundamental overall system, the metaformal system. Such a beautiful idea, as can be expected from Chris Langan. So, I think that's a fairly good start to this series. Sorry about the poor audio quality in yesterday's video. I've upgraded my setup a little bit and set up my microphone, and I'm sure the setup will continue to evolve. I'm just not letting the perfect be the enemy of the good here, and it's good for me to just get things going and put out these videos in spite of their imperfections and and all that. So I appreciate y'all's patience and bearing with me in that process. It's I hope it's going to be as fun for y'all as it is for me. And that's it. I'm going to go get my day started. It's still pretty early in the morning, but I appreciate y'all being here with me wherever or whenever y'all might be. I hope y'all have a very blessed day. And I just want to give a little moment of silence for prayer and connecting to God here. Lord, thank you for the opportunity to do your will and to know you, and to know you in a way that, in a new way, through this work you've given us through Chris. Thanks for all its insight, Lord. Thanks for the opportunity to just know your structure better through all of these papers and through our own minds, which you've given us and made us in the image of God in that way. Amen. God is the ultimate mind. Chris calls his mind a meta mind because it is fundamentally different in certain key aspects from our minds, but it also shares some fundamental similarities, and that is the way that we've been made in the image of God. So it's just a beautiful thing that we exist in this metaformal system, which we are totally immersed in. And thank God that He's in control. Amen. I love you all, and I'll be praying for everybody, all the people that are coming unto knowledge of the truth, and all the people that have, just everybody wherever they're at in their journeys. We could all use a little bit of prayer, I guess. All right. I'll see y'all in the next video.